If I could go ahead and get this meeting started, we'll call it to order. Mr. Charlie, lead us in prayer.
Heavenly Father, thank you for allowing us to be here today and work with Quapaw people. Thank you for getting everybody here safely. Please be with them as they travel home and travel around. Please be with our travel members and their families that are sick. Help heal them and take care of them. Please be with the loved ones of those that are in the hospital. Ask all these things in your son's name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Roll call.
Zach? Here. Michelle?
Here.
Lloyd? Here. Callie? Joseph?
Here.
All
All right, we have a quorum. Reading, correction, and approval of minutes and phone polls. I'll entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Motion. A second.
Question?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So approved. Dropping down, approval, disapproval of treasurer's report.
Move to approve.
Have a motion to approve.
Second.
As well as a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? So approved. Approval and disapproval of reports submitted, record reports.
Make a motion.
Have a motion.
Second.
Have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Record reports submitted are approved. Dropping down on the agenda, we have director's reports, Ms. Carissa Miller. Good morning.
Good morning. How are you guys?
Good. How are you?
Good. So I have to take this off.
Please.
Keep going? Okay. All right. I'm Carissa. I'm the court clerk for the Quapaw Tribe. In the month of December, we only had one docket held, which there was a total of 7 cases held that date. That docket included 5 criminal cases, 1 divorce, 1 protective order. Throughout December, there was 5 new cases filed. Sorry. 1 new attorney applied. Out of those 5 cases, 2 were civil, 1 divorce, 1 adoption, and then we had an attorney file a prohibit leaching to just be in 1 case for right now. This is the time we send out all of our bar member letters to let them know that we kind of want those renewals to be sent in by January 31st. At this time, there are 31 of 42 that were renewed for 2021. Each of them get a new bar membership card saying that they're in good standing for the year 2021. We're also going through the folders. We did notice that when they first applied prior to getting here, not all of them did an oath of admission. So we've resent oath of admissions with those renewal letters, letting them know that they have to sign those. At this time, we've got 19 out of the 42 back. I think I got some this week, so I'll add those numbers next time. We have 16 right now that are inactive, that have not paid, or that have not paid in 2 years. So that's not count. The 42 are active, but there's 16 more that have not paid in a 2-year period. So those went into an inactive file. And we have sent out letters to them, letting them know if they want to continue to be in the bar, that they just need to pay their dues to get up to date.
And what is that amount?
It's $30, $50 for an application, and then $30 each year to remain on the bar.
That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah. At the beginning of the month, I reached out to you guys about a new detention agreement with K County, which was approved. Josh, the Marshal Chief, has signed it. I sent it off to K County. I'm just waiting for them to get back with their board. They had everything ready to go. They just need the signatures on it. So once I get done with that and they send it back to me, I will send a commission card for every one of our marshals that could transport to K County, their vehicle number and their badge number, and a list of all of them and a picture ID, which is on commission, so they know who is going to be bringing inmates back and forth. That agreement will hold inmates for a long period of time if we need them to be held. We didn't have anything prior. So we do have an individual right now that he's got a 180-day sentence but we have to wait for state charges to get done. So once he's released from the state, we'll contact K County with our JNS, and we can transport him to K County, or if they're in the area, they will pick him up at no charge and take him to K County. So we're pretty excited about having that. I did say in my report that the art contest was up and running. It has now concluded. There are 21 high school entries, 24 middle school entries, and there's 1 outside entry for a total of 46 entries.
Great.
So we're really excited about that. I kind of wanted to get with you guys on how we possibly wanted to judge them because there are some really, really good ones. We talked about doing just the top 4, but with 46, I don't know if we need to do a middle school division or a high school division and divide them up and do it that way. Because there's in both areas, there's some really, really good ones. We're having court every month. The judges and the new assistant prosecutor went and got their COVID vaccines at the beginning of this month. They are scheduled to get their second round at the end of this month, so we're excited that they were able to get that. Judge Stalk was very excited considering his age. So he was able to get that. They didn't have any bad reactions. Judge Hammond said her arm hurt a little bit, but other than that, they were fine. For the year of 2020, we had 60 total new cases filed and 16 new attorneys filed. So that was a big jump for the attorneys. We had 4 adoptions, 1 appeal, 5 child support and or paternities, 16 civils, 11 criminals, 9 divorces, 6 guardianships. There was 1 not filed criminal case, 16 new attorneys, and 3 small claims cases. And that's it. Any questions?
Any business questions? Thank you for that report.
Thank you.
Next, we have housing. Mr. Tom Sim.
Thompson, housing director. Right now in Hosda, we're getting ready to build a new home in Miami, Morgan Hill. Just got the permitting done, so we're all ready to go there. When it dries up a little bit, or freezes, and we can start on a pad. Elder housing, we had 1 move out in that trailers. We're rebuilding that, and have somebody back there probably 2 that went to. Elder housing right now, all of them, we've got 3 1-bedrooms, 1 2-bedroom. Ready to go. So I think we're just doing maintenance. There's that.
Any questions for Tom?
What's the average cost of renovation of mobile home?
On average, to be honest with you, those were kind of, they were a little FEMA. They're kind of a, they're pretty cheap built. So whenever they go out, we've had to put in new linoleum. This last one, we've had to cut out a lot of floors, redo linoleum. They're pretty rough. Matter of fact, if we keep them a whole lot longer, we're gonna start replacing cabinets, those pressed wood cabinets, stuff like that. So, but on average, I really don't know. Some of them had to fix up a lot. Some of them just, some holes, doors. We're trying to put new front doors in all of them because they're falling apart. We try to keep them all up as good as we can. But it's going to get expensive for too long. We have to replace the cabinets.
Sound like it's getting expensive now. Sound like it's getting expensive now.
It is to keep them up. Like I said, they're really not. They were those FEMA ones, that were
Right.
just quick, fast build. And we tried to put it together, but like I said, all the cabinets, the doors and stuff, it's all that pressed wood. And over the years, it's just starting to fall apart. So we try to keep them up best we can with the material we got left over. A lot of it would cost. So that costs a whole lot.
I was just curious.
Yeah, they're getting rough.
Does anybody have any questions? Okay, thank you, Tom. Mr. Richardson, IT.
Michael Richardson, IT. We been focused down at the new OC. We
We got all our stuff. We still need to hang TVs down there. That's a never ending thing for us. We got all the phones working. The 911 address is affixed to that building now. So we got all that done. Every time we build a new building, it kind of puts us behind on tickets because, you know, once we go down there, we got to get it started because they're moving in. So we're catching up on that. Staff has been out because of COVID, so it's pretty challenging sometimes. But all that said, we're doing great. We're catching back up. So,
Are there any outstanding, or are there any employees that have outstanding tickets that would prevent them from, if we were to do another shutdown or quarantine scenario where they're working from home?
we're actually waiting for laptops to come in. We got about 30 on its way. I just don't know when they're going to show up. That's the only hiccup to that. Once them laptops come in, they can go home and work because of the virtual desktop we have.
Keep us posted.
I will.
You might tell them it's supposed to be here on the 23rd and they'll cancel them.
Yeah,
Without letting us know.
yeah. The order got canceled for some reason. We don't know why. They'll say, sorry, we'll get them right out to you. Now I have the accessories to all the laptops, but no laptops. They came in.
Okay.
So they should be here any day.
They send you a Christmas card?
No,
Not even a Christmas card?
not even the Christmas card.
All right. Anybody have any questions for Mike? Yes, sir. Realty. Spain.
Morning.
Morning.
We had our first training. I was able to get my folks to since all of COVID started. Worked out pretty much perfect timing. It was an intro to tribal realty. And we had just hired a new realty assistant. So I kind of couldn't pass that up, even if I wanted to. But we had 3 people attend. It was a week-long course. They basically logged in at noon, worked till 3 or 4 via Zoom, and had their stuff, took their test on Friday, and discussed things further. So it was through ICC, as Terry and Leela Beckwith. That's who we do the majority of our trainings through and with in regards to the realty stuff, just because they're really the only group out there that goes in depth, not just a PowerPoint of regulations, which what you get from the Bureau. They've actually gotten better with Justin Van doing theirs, but they actually do some classes, depending on the course you can come through, you can come out of it with an actual product, whether that be a right-of-way. I actually helped them draft some of the right-of-way clauses this past year. And so they're using some of our stuff we've sent them. So they've been pretty good to us, and we've helped them out as well. Finally got the BIA. Of course, they went months without having the ability to work from home. I got them on board since we had facilitated our ag lease sale for the leases ending this year, that they too could do their chat sale that they had scheduled for May 5th of 2020. That obviously didn't happen. We got them on board to do a kind of a Zoom type chat sale, so we could get things moving, because chat purchasers, QSA, those guys, they're still working, even though the Bureau's not. So basically, Craig Creeman, Environmental, myself, we sat down, had a call with the Bureau. This is how you can do this. But we did a go-to meeting, showed them how to use it. They ended up wanting to use Teams, but we got that done with them anyway. So that was a big plus. So I think chat owners should be receiving some contracts here pretty quick. Everything went
that they had 5 piles, and all of them sold except the OKO and the Skelton East. So that's good. And then I immediately called the Bureau after that and said, okay, now can I get my hands on them through discal markets work with EPA and our environment. So they agreed to that. So we'll be laying the groundwork to get those going forward. Ben, I think I've got everything wrapped up. All my requests on information for good evening stuff sent over to Mr. Lawrence. That was done this past month. We've also have working towards our first mortgage on trust property. Been working with First Tribal Lending and the Bureau Limited at this point, but that we just got an email. I got an email this past week that they basically First Tribal Lending got their stuff approved, so they look to move towards closing. So now we initially had sent them certified TSRs and things. It's pretty complex because he's not the sole owner at the moment, but we need conveyances to happen, but we got to have money to make conveyances happen. So it's going to have some unique aspects of those conveyances that we're working through. Of course, end of the year ag leases, business side leases, working on those, getting those submitted. Some of those are trickling in a little late that need to go active January 1. COVID kind of an issue. We're actually completely paperless now with the BIA. I don't know if I've mentioned that to you guys or not. That kind of happened November-ish, and obviously still kind of working out the kinks with that, but it has been beneficial, especially since the Bureau's not in the office for the most part. So, something I wanted to put in your guys' on your table, which for you to think about, is I receive quite a few calls, usually from the Eastern Shawnees. They don't really have an avenue for enforcement outside of going through federal court at the Bureau, which, as we know, it doesn't move very quick. So the Bureau's actually been referring them back to me to resolve some of the residential leasing issues, because we've had so many over the years. But I had to, let the Bureau know, well, that's all good and well, I can help them, but they're not like us. The court system, or residential leases are subject to that court. They don't have that. So I didn't know if there was a possibility, or if you guys was interested in seeing if there was an avenue to be able to get them subject to our court system, or the ability to be heard through our court. I would bring that in. I don't know if there's a benefit to that for the tribe or not, but I wanted to bring that up just because that has been kind of an ongoing issue from time to time. They contact us over basically compliance stuff. They just don't. The federal government, approves the documents just like they do ours, but there's no deed because there's no enforcement. So I didn't know if that was an option, but I wanted to bring that up for you guys to think about as well. We have worked with our court on that notion this past month, kind of getting all the outstanding people in line. Chris has been a great help moving that forward. Got service to one individual, setting court dates in February, trying to get those outstanding cases back up. Landowners paid and everything. I have made contact with some of those individuals for town, just for different properties to see about the interest in possibly selling or the tribe of cleared one whole block anyways. Basically, a lot of folks just didn't know what to think, kind of skeptical of things, but I've had one that was all good. Yes, I think it's numbers and stuff will be presented to you guys once I kind of tie a bow on it. But a lot of them were wanting to think about it, or husband wasn't home, or they wanted to get together, so I left contact information and things. But so that basically worked from Main Street through Virginia on that, and get the back rest of that. Yeah. One of them basically was in place. But the husband, he was nice to talk to. Wife inherited from her dad, sentimental stuff. So I said, well, if you ever change your mind? That's the only one that wasn't really contemplating it at all. That's my stuff. Any questions?
I think it's, I think that's a good idea that you're bringing forward, you know, the possibility of helping the neighbor tribe. And, you know, that's definitely something we'd be interested in. You know, once we get the right minds in the room to discuss, you know, our tribal court capacity to bring in that type of work, and something worth exploring. So thank you for that, bringing it to our attention. Does anybody have any questions for Trent? I will make one comment. I know the BIA with their shutdown, it's been a challenge getting anything to move through that process. And so appreciate you stepping up and taking that on and kind of assisting all of those processes along, especially with the chat cell. So thank you. Next, we have family services. It's me.
You guys have my report that's sent at the end of the year. I'd like to do just a little something different. Kind of give you guys a cumulative number of the people that we served for 2020. Our victims of crime, our OVC department served 35 people. In child welfare, we served 40 children. Our youth services and parenting classes was 19. And our domestic violence program served 91 people. And which I feel that number is high due to, you know, being stuck at home. I think that number has definitely risen. Our BIA assistants served 83 people, and that entails general assistance, direct employment, emergency, and burial. So, and then we had visitation services client. There was only one client for that because the program is new. The first year you don't even take on, you don't have to take on clients, it's building the program. But she's not only built the program in 1 year, but it's also opening it up to taking on visitations. So that's a cumulative total of 269 people that our department served. With that said, we are a department of 7 people. And when I started 6 years ago, we were a department of 4. So that's almost doubled since within 6 years. So those numbers are only numbers unless I explain to you what all they entail. So during the pandemic, all clients continued to be served as before. The only difference was that masks were worn, and instead of seeing our clients in closed quarters like our interview rooms, we had a designated area in our office building where if we had to see them. We continued to have to transport our clients and come visits as necessary, attend court hearings with our clients. We locate our clients, attend meetings with attorneys, and accompany with our clients. Our children were still taken to placements, picked up from placements when we do placement. Joint investigations at DHS were continuing. And we continued to make sure our children in custody had clothing, bed, all necessary items that they needed. And we made sure we got those things to them. We continued to hold our counseling services in our designated space in our building for our children and adults so that mental health would still be met and provided for. So with all that said, I just want to recognize the efforts of the women that work in our department. I know that I am probably biased, but I think I have some of the strongest determined women working for me. And in despite of COVID and them running the risk of contracting it themselves and taking it home to their family, they still work to make sure that none of our clients went without and all of their needs were met. And if they could serve our clients to the best of our ability. So I'm proud of them. I'm proud of what they accomplished in 2020. I'm proud of their dedication despite the challenges that we were faced this year. They worked hard. And so I just want to give them recognition. Just give you some numbers of what our department did, even though we're small. I think any questions?
Yeah, I appreciate you giving your report today, kind of like a year-end wrap-up. You know, the challenges that our entire tribal government face, our business entities, you know, it's definitely been a daunting task to keep the cart on the rails and be able to service those who need help and assistance. And, you know, I'm not sure if our people fully quite understand the importance of your department. We recognize that up here, and we appreciate, you know, all of your staff as well as yourself, your dedication and what you've been able to continue to do. And we look forward for good things to come, more good things to come. And at the end of the day, you have a really challenging position with everything that entails. So
I
thank
think all
you.
the girls have challenging positions. I mean, they work beside me just as hard as all the rest of us.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have environmental, Mr. Tim Kent.
Good morning. I think you got the report. I'll just kind of skim over the highlights. This past month at Tar Creek, QSA removed approximately 63,000 tons of chat. That represents close to over $600,000 in grant funds to EPA, to the environmental department. And that's pretty much consistent with EPA's commitment. Last fiscal year, we received almost $15 million from EPA for Tar Creek cleanup. And last year, ending October, QSA removed close to 1 million tons of chat, which pretty much cleared several hundred acres of land that was turned back into agricultural use. So things are going well. New chat sales. I think Trenton kind of skimmed over it, but I can't emphasize the significance of this latest chat sale. DIA put up the remainder of restricted chat up for sale. It's basically the last of the chat left out there. There's really no significant amounts of unrestricted chat left site, and this is the remainder of the tribal chat that was put up for sale and was sold. So that's going to really help facilitate cleanup. We don't have to worry about who's going to buy more from the chat. We can just go in with EPA funds and just immediately start cleaning up. So it's really going to help facilitate the cleanup. And kudos to Trenton, because I don't think it would have happened without Trenton bringing a BIA along.
I agree.
He sort of set up the new way we could do this chat sales. He sort of stayed with BIA and let them know, how he does it, because they were handling this particular chat sale. So anyway, that's a huge development for Tar Creek. So we're excited about that. Just a couple of other things that are going on that I just want to make you aware of, probably weren't really detailed in the report. I think I've told you all before, we're working on a new state agreement. We have an agreement with EPA to do all the cleanup on restricted properties, but we have an agreement with the state of Oklahoma to do all the cleanup on the non-restricted side. So, and that agreement is set to expire. The governor signed that back in 2015, I think, but now it's getting ready to expire. So we need to start talking about getting that new. And the state is putting together a draft, and I'll get that to you all as soon as they get it to us. But the most significant thing that's in our court is to develop new unit costs. We charge the state, unit costs that were developed back in 2014, and they want us to update those and substantiate those. So I've been working with Eric, QSA, and trying to get a reasonable backup for what we're charging the state. So as soon as we come up with that number, I'm going to get with you all and sort of let you know how that was arrived at before we go to the state. So yeah, that's coming up pretty quick. The other thing that's going on is, as you all know, we run the remaining water system at Pitcher. We've got 3 deep wells over there, Ruby Dew wells. EPA funds the state to sample those because there's a potential for those deep wells to get contaminated from mine water, shallow mine water. So they're going to be doing that sampling and getting results to us here in the next few weeks. I just signed the access agreement for them to get through the wells. And the well number 5, which is the one south of Pitcher, it's now completely contaminated. We were using that as part of the water system to help, as part of one of our water sources, but it's completely contaminated with mine water. So the state is saying we've got to plug it because of the danger of, contaminating the aquifer further. So the state is going to provide the funding to do that. So, unfortunately, it was a good well. It was a good backup well for our water system, but we've just got to plug it. So I'll be sending you some information on that pretty quick. And that's pretty much it. I think we've got some issues further on down the agenda, but I think that's about all I was going to present. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Kent? Thank you, sir. Next, for USA, we have Mr. Rogers.
Good morning, Steve.
Good morning.
We're going to be finishing up some jobs here.
Meet your mic.
The old mic and Rock and Roll. Hold up.
Yeah, there you go.
This year we'll be finishing up compost and seeding on fiscal 10, 12, 13, and then finish the fencing will be finished up inside. Bird Dog is continuing capping, loading off source materials. We've got some new sites coming up, guys. Clearing and prepping of dements, smelter, a little bit on Nelson property. We've got a borrow source on there. We'll be hauling 18,000 ton in, kind of gearing up to get it done. We've got a lot of little jobs going on that we need to get tied up and stuff, like steak stuff. So it's going to be a good year for us. I really think that. But guys, Tim Kim just rounded up everything really. Any questions?
Do you need to get your mask with an orange S?
I knew you was going to say that, guy. I knew you were going to say that.
Stay strong, Roger. Stay strong.
I know. I knew he was going to say that. More you buy up. There's a lot of cattle up there.
Hey, Johnny, I appreciate you giving us, the tour the other day. And some of the information that you were able to provide us is going to help us along in making some decisions that are necessary. And just want to say appreciate you and Rick.
Hey, we appreciate you guys for the job you guys are doing. All of you.
Thank All right. Next we have county, our CFO, Mr. Eric Booth.
Good morning.
Morning.
So December ended our first quarter of the fiscal year, and we are off and running. December, we had revenue of 2.4 million, bringing our total for the year to 5.8. Actual expenses for December were 1.9 million, bringing our total for the year to 5.5. So we're doing well there. Tribal member health benefit. December, we had 440,000 in expenses, bringing our total for the fiscal year to 1.4 million. Social services, December expenses were 152,000, bringing our total for the fiscal year to 433,000. And education for December was 38,000, bringing our total for the year to 56,000. Let me just hit on those. There's three big items that are huge tribal member benefits. The tribal member health benefit. We have a new administrator as of 1/1/2021, and that is back to Native Care Health. MedOne will continue to be our pharmacy benefit manager. Letters were sent out to the tribal members, notifying them of the change. The letter will serve as the temporary ID card for those that have appointments in January before the actual benefit card reaches them. We expect the benefit cards to start reaching mailboxes at the end of January. For those of you that might be watching on Zoom or watch this on YouTube later, if you are not receiving those or have not received those letters by the time you have a doctor's appointment, you can contact Stacy at Native Care Health, and her number is 877-810-4587. I have that number memorized. Our social services, that benefit, again, the new year started as of 1/1/2021. So this is a huge time. Everybody that has run out of benefit for the calendar year, it starts over. So those numbers will climb, especially during the winter months and stuff like that. And of course, our education as well. Spring semester is starting up. Some have started this week actually. But those expenses for our education, our spring semester funding, will climb drastically in the next month or two. Our tribal member or tribal enterprises contributed 600,000 to the general fund for December, bringing our total for the year 1.2 million in those distributions. That's all I have. Does anybody have any questions?
I've got a couple, I guess, since we're on the subject of expenses. Discussion switching back to other slide, can you give everybody sort of like a mile high view of what we're looking at in terms of improvements from just the switch, I guess, back to Native Care Health. One, I guess, logistically on how our previous arrangement maybe that burdened your office, and then also kind of what we're looking at in terms of the expense shift from, the relative cost of the product.
Sure. Well, of course, I've talked to most of the tribal members, I feel like, in the last 2 years. Those of you that have had issues in the original transition from Native Care Health to UMR, getting claims paid, getting the right information to your providers. I've talked to a bunch of providers to help them file the claims correctly to get them paid. That has been a huge burden on me the last 2 years. While I've enjoyed talking to tribal members and helping them get their needs satisfied, we feel like the move back to Native Care Health, the familiarity with our tribal members and the issues that come with our tribal member plan being it's not insurance, it's a benefit. That's hard sometimes for providers to understand. It's hard for those that have primary coverage. It's hard for their primary coverage to understand that this is not insurance. So we feel like Stacy's going to be able to answer all the questions she did before. That's the common ground that we have going back to Native Care Health. She's familiar with a lot of the tribal members. She knows them. And you know, even in giving tribal members her phone number, you know, they're like, oh yeah, I remember talking to her. So we feel like that's going to be a huge benefit from a service standpoint. And then from the expense side, again, it's just a matter of, you know, those admin fees in particular, because every year the claims are different. You know, some years they're way up, some years they come down. The main thing is getting those claims processed in a timely manner so that our tribal members are not being inundated by either providers calling them or those statements that are annoying to get in the mail, and you're like, I thought this was taken care of. So we feel like this is a good switch. Will help streamline the process back to the way it was, get those issues taken care of in a timely manner to alleviate, you know, the problems for tribal members and follow up. So.
Yeah, and I guess, you know, it'd be worth mentioning too that expenses are not always just what we're paying, but also what we're incurring from the amount of time, hours, labor that we're expending in our own departments handling individual claims that, frankly, your finance department should not really have to be handling. So, yeah, thank you very much.
Anybody else?
I think you've done a tremendous job. The burden should have never been placed on you in the first place as our CFO. I think it was an absolute sin, but we're sailing right along, moving along nicely, and we appreciate your service.
Right, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, if I may put on a point of information in regard to Native Care Health. It has nothing to do with Eric's report, but I think it's important for people here. I know on the social networks right now, there's a lot of complaints about Native Care Health denying referrals. I would think, I served on the board of the Indian Clinic for numerous years. And those complaints were coming from people who live outside the state of Oklahoma. And under government regulations, it's not Native Health Care or RWI, however they want to put it, denying those claims. It's a government regulation that contract help can only be for Oklahoma residents. You cannot live across the state lines. So I hope people would quit complaining because they need to know the facts. And that's the facts.
Thank you, Mr. Buffalo. Thank you, Eric. Okay, next up, QMGA. Ms. Barbara Boyer.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We've been quite busy, as you can imagine, working on several issues with relocations and increasing our workload quite a bit this past month. Several agents and finally we were able to sidestep the COVID-19 until this past 40 days or so. And we were hit with several cases of that. It was our compliance staff who were out and amongst the casino floor most of the time daily. So I guess we were bound to have gotten some cases, and we did. We are have completed interviews for a couple of more staff for compliance because we've been down on that issue since the furlough. And so we're trying to pick back up with some qualified people for compliance agents. Our licensing department, the Quapaw Casino, has stayed about the same with their employee base. Downstream has increased a little bit to 785 employees. And of course, before COVID and the furlough, they were running around 1,100, between 1,000 and 1,100. So they are still down quite a few people there. Our vendor licensing has starts over again. That's why the figures are lower on this report this time than they were previously. They all start over at the first of the year, so that's why the figures are a little bit less than they were last month.
Who sets those?
Who sets what?
Who sets the vendor licensing fees?
We do.
And are those looked at on an annual basis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we try to average them across the board with other tribes. You know, and that too goes along with what I was going to cover next on the compliance department. They're getting ready to send out their machine licensing packets for this coming year, next week. And we set those also. We try to be average on the cost across the board to comparable to other tribes of our same size and same situations. We could, we could go up and down, but sometimes that's not a good thing. They can, I guess, refuse to want to come and get licensed. So most of the large companies, though, that have 50 or 100 employees that come and go, at different times, would be inundated and would have to choose, I'm sure, pick and choose who they would send at different times. So we try and make it, culpable to their situation also.
The reason I asked wasn't as a suggestion to increase or decrease the rate. It was more of just making sure we continue to reevaluate that on an ongoing basis.
We do it every year. In the compliance department, we've been working at downstream. They have been trying to update the VIP mobility system with the machines, and if you're aware of what that is, but where they can put in their card and it can go directly to the bank account, directly for service for drinks or whatever. This magical card in this system is supposed to be everything, answer to everything. And we've been, of course, monitoring it all along since the beginning. And now they're trying to update it some more so it will, include more perks, I guess you could say, for the patron. And so they've been working on it this past month. Our auditors have started the new year, of course, the new fiscal year audits, and ended up with the last year's audit, last fiscal year audits last month, and have begun again already to continue on with the required mix in tribal TICS audits for this coming fiscal year. We also have just got good reports on the external audit for both casinos. So they're doing well as far as regulatory. The investigation, what I will touch on there is we have sent all of the reports now to the transcriber, all of the interviews that we've done, that they did initially with all of the those that they interviewed at different times, at separate times. They've been all sent to the transcriber so that we can get the documents for need later on, or perhaps need later on, and we'll have the required documentation in writing so that we can help finalize the final reports also. And one last thing, I guess I didn't get on my report because I just got them this week. The paperwork has come back for the golf course and for the convenience store for the management to be changed. And we got those all back. They're all set up again. The convenience store one, I think it's good till June. And the golf course is good now too, so. That's for what you requested from me on that issue. And that's all I have.
Any questions for? Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, dropping down to new business. We have several purchase requests. The first one being with the grants, EOC design and build contract, Indian Community Development Block Grant. And what was $1,024,780.
I will make a motion to go with the EOC design build.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
With the motioner of the name approved. Builder unlimited product.
Yes, I will amend my motion to include the Builder Unlimited Tri-Park Company.
I will amend my motion to include Builder Unlimited Tri-Park for the company.
Okay, we have an amended motion to take up that. Second. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor signify by saying aye. All those opposed? Block grant is approved. Department of Public Services. Treasury funds for $67,243.
I will make a motion to purchase the Zoll Medical portable ventilators for $67,000, $67,243.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right. So approved. Next, we have Quapaw Fire Department, Oklahoma Ambulance Association and budget totaling $49,648.44.
I'll make a motion to approve.
We have a motion to approve, as well as a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, so approved. For the environmental department, this is the Rascals Truck Stop Property Fuel Line Closure. This is out of the GIN fund, totaling $11,200.
Motion.
We have a motion. Second. We have a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All requests have been approved. Next on the list, we have a construction remediation manager position for QSA, departmental approval. Kim, would you mind giving us a description of this?
Sure. I guess a little bit of history. When we first applied to EPA to take over all the cleanup at Tar Creek, we worked with EPA's legal department and, that's when we set up the Quapaw Services Authority. Just because they're grant people, in order to grant the funds to us correctly without going out to bid, they said it would have to be a government-to-government agreement to go ahead. It would be a government cleanup, just like if they were to give money directly to the state of Oklahoma. But they recommended we have a separate authority that would actually do the work. When we sort of task USA to do the work and they charge the environmental departments, we don't charge any indirect. So that was kind of an agreement with EPA. Long story short, to have, we still need to keep that separation. And at this point, because of staff changes and so forth, there's really nobody sort of in charge of the office over there that's sort of an overall manager of the QSA side that could, approve invoices, to, do spreadsheets and budgets and that sort of thing. So there's sort of a vacuum of sort of leadership in the office over there that I felt needed to be replaced, not only to help us and to help Johnny out the field, but also to sort of keep that consistency when we report to EPA on that separation. So that's why I kind of recommended, having that position over there to sort of run things in the office and kind of keep an overall oversight of what QSA is doing, but still have that separation, if that makes sense. Any questions?
Any questions for Tim? Johnny, would you like to add to that?
Yeah. Hey, Kim, we have Willie over there. Right. And he does a lot of kind of the management stuff. I mean, he's real good. He's a real familiar guy with a lot of those things. So, I mean, maybe add a little bit to his money or something. We wouldn't add to insurance and work comp and unemployment and everything else in there. But if you guys want to give another job to another qualified problem, that's awesome. Invoices and stuff like that. I sign and code and stuff. It just adds to my job, which keeps me busy, and I love doing it, guys. So I mean, that might be something to look at. Maybe adding a little more responsibility to something we already have and is familiar with, those job duties. So I mean, it's just a suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you. We'll entertain a motion to approve. Or would you? I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make a motion to approve the construction remediation manager job description.
A motion. Have a second. Some discussion. I might have a comment for after, I guess. Taking into consideration, we can definitely work on this job description. I'm in favor of approving it, but we can definitely look at job differences. Obviously, we're going to have the ability to offer job opportunities to people that are in-house, whether it be, like I said, the augmentation of pay, and we can look at it from the standpoint of just a promotion, but then also go through the risk of regular hiring practices. But I think that kind of having something memorialized in that, where we have our superintendent position as well as the names of the position of project management, you know, I think it makes quite a bit of sense. I think we're going to need kind of dual purpose where we've got guys like South County that, you know, are out there that have, you know, boots on the ground knowledge of where we're at in terms of, you know, progress with the pistol. Also, you know, where we're at with machinery, you know, mechanics, where we're at with billing and all this in terms of voicing. I think that we are going to kind of need some project management in terms of, you know, the overall picture as well. So, but yeah, definitely taking into consideration that I don't know that we can do both. Any other comments?
Call for the question.
Do a call for the question. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, position is approved. Dropping down. Councilman Taylor?
The next is a resolution supporting the nomination of Congresswoman Deb Hayes Holland for the Secretary of the Department of Interior. I will make the motion to accept this resolution 011621-A.
I would second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Well, sure, please.
Is United American?
Congresswoman Holland, along with Sharice Davis, was the first Native Americans women elected to Congress. And in that same historic breath, she is the first woman Native American nomination for the Department of Interior, as well as to a presidential cabinet. So it's a pretty historic deal. She is Pueblo out of New Mexico. Went to University of New Mexico School of Law with fellow alumni, or alumnus, however you want to say it. And she's going to be a wonderful asset to Indian country. And we're looking forward to great things from her. I'm proud of that accomplishment. Pretty awesome.
I knew that. I just wanted to say.
Thank you for
I guess for reasons I'll get into, you know, moving forward too, I think this is kind of a very significant importance to our needs with the appropriation of air. You know, we're currently working on authorizing language in terms of legislative language up there. We do have a sponsor, our federal company. You know, we've been in constant contact with our federal delegation here in Oklahoma, as well as Native American federal delegation. We have their full-throated support in both the House and the Senate. And so kind of moving past authorization to kind of chug along on the CR, which continues to get booted down the road. You know, with the possibility of her installation as secretary opens up a lot of different avenues in terms of the ability to not only, I guess, just get that appropriated, but I guess puts possibility back on the table for the ability to get this paid for out of federal settlement funds. I know that we had that kind of support in the during the Trump administration, particularly from their posture at DOI. So the potential change here could mean a very, very, I guess, quick turnaround in terms of what we're at there. Something that's an issue that we're pressing with them. We've gotten support across the aisle as well from Republican congressmen, and they are very adamant about this issue, very adamant about supporting this issue as well. not only here in Oklahoma, but also over in Arkansas. Senator Tom Cotton, who also is looking at some kind of appointment as well, is a very good supporter of ours. So he's going to be helping kind of champion that issue moving through confirmation hearings here in the Senate that Holland's up there. So, we're very excited. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, the resolution is approved. Secretary, you want to take a minute? So this is a resolution to approve contract between Quapaw Nation and Internet Consulting. So, would you like to thank them? Yeah. Okay. So this has been a several month process, kind of a project deal that we've been working on. Ability to be able to fund something out of the CARES Act money that would really kind of limit face-to-face or physical interaction around an office space, but also be able to wildly heighten our kind of centralized database ability to kind of bring our archives into this century. And, you know, something that we've kind of noticed since we've been here, and to be fair, our IT department, at least in our first meeting, sitting down and asking, is there anything that you kind of have on your radar that you like, something that you'd like to consider, and kind of without missing a beat, laserfish. And so it is definitely the software that kind of provides us better storage capability, the better functionality. I think the tribal members will also see the benefit of this as well. It provides us the capability to get rid of the need to be filling out forms online by hand and submitting them through the mail to tribal government itself, while they expedite the process. It'll create better communication between our enrollment department, tax department, ag department, in addition to every department. It's really a holistic solution to a lot of our, we'll call them growing pains. So Mikey, do you want to give any info on this?
I think you covered it pretty good there. It's really moving us forward with our technology to help the tribal members better communicate with the government. I mean, I'll just throw an example out there. We use social services, for example. So you'll be able to request your social services by not only filling out a form, but you'll be able to take a picture of your bill and upload it to that form. So you won't have to mail that stuff in to social services now. That's just one of the things it can do, but it's unlimited.
So I guess along with that, we kind of got some other ability to create some, I guess, aid and some searchability with all of our prior resolutions. As of right now, we load in PDFs, might as well get a photo. You know, no matter how granular they are and how old they are, it gives us the ability to go back and use some important documents, but and also the paper that. You want to tell them how many pages a week we're printing here?
It's a lot. I can't remember the exact number, but it's a bunch.
My memory is 60,000 pages.
Yes, I think you're correct on that number. I know it was really high.
It's going to give us the ability to wildly print on that as well. So while it is an expense, it defines and helps cut expenses across the board. So thank you. Yes, and of course, at the end of the day, funded by CARES Act. Thank you, Mike. Barbara.
Makes me kind of nervous when you talk about enrollment.
Mm-hmm.
because in the past, the enrollment committee has to deal with a lot of forgery. And if you're just taking a picture of a document, and you're not going to be able to tell the validity of that unless you see it. Sometimes it's difficult even if you see it in your hands. So I don't know, that's kind of a, I don't know, Lord, do you have an issue with that?
I agree with the comments. It's difficult at times.
Mike, do you want to tell her about the AI in the river?
So this program comes with artificial intelligence, so it learns as it's on the system. So what that will, it should be able to determine whether that document is original or altered, if that makes sense.
I hear what you're saying, but that doesn't mean I believe it. I mean, I'm not saying it's true, I tell you what you think, but I don't know how an electronic system can tell a fake birth certificate.
It's not changing, I don't believe anything that he's doing with the system is changing the requirement to provide an original birth certificate for enrollment. This is just going to be able to link up all the administration and governmental sides of records and data collection into one system. So there's not everybody doing things a little bit different in regard to records. The enrollment requirement is still the same thing. It's not altering that, but it'll be able to help collect information.
So you won't be able to take a picture of your birth
Well,
certificate and send it in.
Right, yeah, that still wouldn't be acceptable because we have to have the original birth certificate on file.
Okay.
But
We're just going to digitize that.
as an annual, I guess it's kind of,
You mean after you get it, after it's.
Yes.
Yeah.
as an annual, kind of how it streamlines the process. If somebody applies for utilities that is already an enrolled member, it can cut out the need for, social services to have to either pick up the phone or go over to enrollment to verify enrollment status as well. You can program it automatically to verify that and then start to build the form beforehand. I mean, it'll actually cut down on work hours, it will increase the productivity itself. So it gives our departments the ability to talk, but without human interaction. It starts to allow their documents and files and start to speak with one another. To be fair, this software has been around for about 12 years. I was shocked. It would probably be a mild version of what I felt whenever I got here and noticed that we did not have something in terms of the heightened imaging system or centralized database. So
I get it. I mean, I know electronics is coming along way, but there's something you just, review in person.
those considerations will be made when we start to roll it out. We're not trying to replace everybody with robots. So this will be Quapaw Cybernet, but we're definitely trying to make people's jobs a little bit easier so they can be a little more productive.
Oh, so it works for you, maybe we'll be it. I know.
We're gonna have Terminators walking around.
I know. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, thanks, Mike. Any other discussion? Michelle, do you have something?
Mr. Chairman, after hearing all the discussion, I would move to adopt resolution 11621B, approve the contract from the Quapaw Nation and consulting.
We have a motion to adopt the resolution. And we have a second. Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? All right, the resolution is approved.
Who's second?
Can't read my lips. And just say it next time. I don't know.
Is that the time for you?
Oh, okay, okay. Dropping down, we have the subject of the marshal. And Zach, if you could, please.
Yes. So, Josh, the chief of the marshals, had come to me and discussed this situation. What this is doing is this is bringing us into compliance with 25 CFR section 12.34, which has to do with the pay for the marshal service. This will put us onto a BIA pay scale, which is what they should have been on since we signed this contract and started doing our own law enforcement. So not necessarily just a raise, it is putting us on this pay scale from this point forward. It gives them that ability to know what they're going to do year to year as far as raises go. It's a GS scale, so grade step. It goes off to education, experience, and then years of service for our department. Kind of what that is. And then we're also changing 2 job titles.
Always good to be in compliance.
Yep.
Okay. So I'll entertain a motion to approve title changes as well as a update to the marshal pay scale. Second. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed? Motion is approved. Adopted. Next we have enrollment relinquishes, and I believe we have to do these each separately. So we have a tribal number 3782. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the relinquishment rule number 3782.
We have a motion by Zach and a second by Callie. Any discussion?
Question.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. That is approved. Dropping down, we have an enrollment relinquishment number 5708. And I'll entertain a motion to adopt.
I'll make a motion to accept enrollment relinquishment of number 5708.
Okay.
We have a motion by Zach and a second by Michelle. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? 5708 is approved for relinquishment. Okay. Dropping down, next on the agenda, we have open forum. And I guess if any of the directors or those that are here in the building have any questions that they'd like to pose to us, we'll get to those. And any on the Zoom, we can also take those questions as well. And before we recognize anybody on the Zoom, I'd like to take a moment to recognize a few individuals who have passed in the last month that we had a meeting. Those tribal members' names are Bill Elliott, Nancy Tuttle, and Patricia Watson. And at this time, I ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Holidays are always a tough time for people in grieving. And with the COVID-19 pandemic this year has been exceptionally challenging. And so we continue to keep these families in prayer, as well as our entire tribal community. And I think we should just go ahead and give a quick update on COVID-19 vaccines, as we've mentioned, as we've heard a couple of other in the director's reports, overlapping in the information we're trying to provide. The Northeast Tribal Health System, the Indian Clinic up here in Miami, has been administering the first rounds of the Moderna vaccines to our local area with elders, as well as folks with pre-existing conditions as a priority. And I encourage everyone who can get it to get that. And information can be found on the clinic website. So please reach out to them to schedule your appointments. And in the same breath, you know, I'd also encourage flu shots as well. So anything we can do to help combat, you know, sickness and illness, it's yeah, anything you can do to do that, please, I encourage it. And then also in the same line of COVID-19, the relief funding. So the President-elect Biden has put forward a plan for direct funding to help tribal governments respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's a multi-billion-dollar package for Indian country. And this is something we continue to monitor. And you know, we're hopeful for this, and we'll share the news with everyone when there is progress. And the final thing I'd like to say in open forum is really a Good Eagle update. And you know, where we stand today, an analysis was performed on the distribution plan of these funds, and letters detailing the analysis along with exact payment information have started to be mailed out to the proper individuals that have a Good Eagle plan. And the tribe will also be putting together information for the entire tribal citizen base, so they can all understand what exactly Good Eagle and Bear are about and how they are different. And with that, I'll give the floor over to Secretary.
I guess bring us down from a mile high, 10,000 feet. You know, we had placed a deadline on ourselves to be able to get to where we could have letters in the mail come the 1st of January. You know, I am remiss to say that we probably missed that by a couple of days. However, we did have letters in the mail. We do have correspondence going to those individual claimants and people, fully detailing, outlining, you know, claims, interest, ownership, and you know, cause of action themselves, fully outlining their ownership and damages so that they can fully understand it. As we can tell right now, that this has never been clearly communicated to the claimants themselves. So we understand that there are going to be questions moving forward. We are making the legal explanation readily available to, you know, where it can be explained ad nauseam for any of those claimants that are going to have questions, which there inevitably will be. You know, this has been a very difficult project, kind of getting this together and really trying to clean up what we believe is an unbelievable mess that we inherited, but it's definitely something the chairman and myself campaign on cleaning up. You know, I think it's always very important to realize that I think had this been
handled probably better, more ethically, responsibly, first go around, we wouldn't be sitting here talking about this. There's some argument that I wouldn't be sitting here. So, but with that being said, we made promises to do right wrongs for here and kind of around the clock energy effort to deliver on these promises. So, there's an unbelievable amount of work that has gone into this. I know just from my end, just overseeing it, but then also kind of the day-to-day individual work. Mr. Fan is sitting here. I can't imagine how much time and energy that you put into this. I'll give you the opportunity to explain some of it if you like, but I mean, we've had all kinds of stuff getting hung up with the land records and going through probate records, tackling the resident of Black Estate. Extraordinarily problematic. This is, I can't stress enough how many tens of thousands of lines and cells in Excel that we've built the last 6 months in order to get this accomplished. But if you'd like to make a comment, please go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Probably one of the biggest issues outside of, the past 4 or 5 years of dealing with this was the kind of when anytime courts and attorneys are involved with something, they always hire people to be their experts or do things. But don't really have a working understanding of the data that they're requesting. And part of the problem, or the hard part of for my department, was during that time we didn't always have TAMs. That is the federal government's database. So a lot of information that had to be created from nothing for quite a long time. And you're also further complexity of that once we did obtain TAMs was, okay, we have a settlement time. Now, the ownership and people we're dealing with is for a snippet in time, not necessarily current names that is given as how TAMs tracks that information. So as Secretary Treasurer Guy mentioned, probates, life estates, that's all an issue because now we have individuals that's listed, but not listed as claims. So you've got to go back and recreate. Now, there's a lot of folks that inherited from 2 places. So if you have land or interest in property from 2 different places, you're having to pull each probate because it's not tracked. You can find out who it is, but you've got to go backwards to create a lot of information. And then just the wide span of information that this dealt with, all the assets from mining and then the different experts dealing with those was very complex or time consuming because everybody wanted to see you map. So basically, I had to work really close with Garrett Couch for many hours, many nights to get data to a visual for folks that needed to see that. So I'm very thankful we're kind of on the downhill side of these matters. It's been a tough road for me. Just having an office that's as busy as we are anyways, to then have this matter. And I'm glad it's, being resolved because there are folks I have to fight it. I fought this for the first part of, the 10 years I've been here is dealing with the federal government that don't always take into account the best interests of individuals. And this is going to rectify or help anyways, a lot of families and people that didn't get treated correctly or their assets handled appropriately to begin with. And that's what I've tried to make the point with everybody I hired is that we're providing a service and we're going to do things in their best interest. And it was really hard in the beginning to see the Bureau not do things for people and then see them pass away. we had Judy Peavy, who was wanting to sell land for a long time. They wouldn't allow her because it was inside a Superfund site that they couldn't define, which took me, after her passing, to be able to get that done. This, I mean, that go down the list for issues. We've, as Guy said, the big Excel spreadsheets are never ending. It's a daunting task, and I feel I could have been involved a little more in certain things early on, that it could have been a little easier on everybody as a whole. But I'm thankful you guys are doing what you're doing, and we're about to wrap this up. Thank you.
Yeah, I think you've done really, I think you've done a heck of a job. And this, you know, this has been an unbelievable project, very, very complicated project, but definitely not insurmountable. I think to fully illustrate, you know, just like you said, having been involved in this, I don't know how, you know, proper calculations or proper distributions could have ever been calculated without having gone through a lot of the data that we had to rip through in order to figure this out. I mean, it's readily apparent that it was never even touched, considered, or looked at. So, thank you. I mean, I think that it's unbelievable. I know that you've seen it, what kind of benefit this is going to help some of these people, some families. You know, that what did actually happen, you know, some of it is truly heartbreaking. Many, if not all, individuals involved in this may be upset. I know that, you know, everybody is kind of confused by the overall matter, but at the same time, yourself and us and everybody here is tasked with a very tough job of doing, you know, what is right, what's fair, versus probably what was wrong. I want to say thank you very much. I really, really appreciate you and your department, how much work, time, and effort, you know, elbow grease, and sweat equity that you put into it. So it's been an unbelievable help.
Thank you.
Johnny, did you have something?
Yes, sir. Now, there's some misunderstanding, I mean, amongst folks out here. There's a lot, because I've talked to you guys a little bit about it. You had the farm ground, you had the mining ground, you had the lease, the housing ground, stuff, all controlled by BIA. These there's misunderstanding on percentages, I guess you would say. So, now, what was the cutoff date for mismanagement of the funds? Like if you sold, if your grandparents, great-grandparents, whatever, sold their land before 1950, or what is that cutoff date? Where was the mismanagement of funds?
It'll have to be during the presence. You know, I don't know that there's a hard set cutoff date, because you've got, you know, say, central mill pile versus the bird dog pile, blue goose, you know, every single one of them, they had chat hauled off of that pile at different times. You know, some of them didn't have it hauled off as stolen. So you got to look at an operational window. I mean, you kind of just can. So just to illustrate why this is such a complicated process, is that if we could just have some defined date window, you know, it would probably simplify it, but it definitely didn't. You know, it's almost stuff that, you know, even a few years ago, so where we're taking things into consideration is whether it's has to be hauled off and scaled and weighed and never paid for, you know. So, you know, there's a lot of claims that were kind of originally brought on it, but ultimately 4 of them were what was included in this. You know, would be kind of your whole right-of-way issue was one of them, chat ownership, mineral rights being itself, and then obviously, you know, land ownership that would be kind of dirt underneath that cat farm and stuff. So, you know, and that's kind of a complicated issue that what led to the complexity of this kind of calculation itself. You know, the mismanagement of IIM accounts across the board, that's fair. I mean, that's the reason why it's a completely different lawsuit itself. You know, we've got, take take two different chat files, for example, put them right next to each other, and you have guys pull up in trucks and they haul off half of one file and then just a tenth of the other file. One of those files was stolen from more than the other, and then you could have two completely different files where they hauled one off and didn't pay for it, and then they scaled and weighed and then paid for tab on the other file. Well, now you've got a tribal member that has no money in their IIN account. You have another tribal member that has the right amount of money in their IIN account. And previous basis on this, it seems as though they started to look at IIN accounts as some kind of basis for how they were going to establish the images. And the larger the IIN account was, the that was the larger payment. However, that doesn't make any sense because the person with the larger IIN account actually got paid. So that's been something that we've wrestled with far before we ran for office. This was kind of the whole issue as to why things kind of, people stomped on the brakes kind of leading up to settlement on this. And so, but like I said, the claimants that are involved, particularly Good Eagle, we have a implement that's probably way more than what they want, but it's everything. I mean, it's everything that they're going to need in order to understand. And also, we've got the resources we're making available to claimants where, I mean, or as long if they want to talk about it so they can fully understand it. So where they're a land expert, and you might even have somebody to hire over there to your department, they'll understand fractional interest to the nth degree. But that's where we're headed. So but if there's anything else I can do.
Got one more question. Some of these individuals, these IAM account holders, have sold just the top of the ground, selling mineral rights underneath these IAM account holders. So would those IAM account holders with their interest still in the mineral rights be in on this case right here?
Yeah, so I mean that's why again you're adding layers of complexity to it where you've got a fractional interest and we've got individuals that will call us, and say, well, I have 200 acres of mineral rights in this area. The thing is you own like 1/64 of 200 acres in those mineral rights. And so, the ownership itself can be divided and split, sub-layered, whether it's dirt, you don't own the minerals, maybe you own both, it's like I said, it just adds layers of complexity to it in terms of, calculating real property interest. So it is organizationally in terms of the data, that's why it's such a unpredictable volume. So
I'm just trying to get some questions kind of out there in the air. You're doing a good job answering them. I appreciate you guys.
And I think it's important to say that, as Guy mentioned, it is complex. And I think that's been mentioned over and over again. That seems to be the buzzword around all this. And this is a really complex issue. And it's multi-layered, multifaceted. And so, we're committed to getting the information out there as an explanation. Maybe it's an FAQ on the website. Maybe it's a separate website devoted just to this. But we agree that there's a lot of confusion in the community. Predecessors didn't do anything to clear that confusion. Anything that made it more, of a debacle. But that being said, we are committed to providing everybody the information with that. Not just Good Eagle, not just Bear, but everybody. Because it's an interesting story that we're having to tell. And we like telling stories with facts and truth, so we're committed to that.
Well, Joe, I know when I ask you guys questions, you guys have been nothing but honest. I knew the answer because you could read it in the paragraphs that was you guys put out on these sites. So I could read it and then you guys confirmed it. So you guys have been honest. When you guys ask questions, you guys have been honest. And I appreciate that. I appreciate the honesty. I appreciate you guys' honesty. I really do.
That's very gracious of you. Do any business committee members have anything they'd like to discuss? put out there? Al, I think we have anybody?
Yes.
Oh, wait, real quick, I'm sorry. Let's get an update from the election committee. But
Morning.
good morning.
This is really very impromptu, so I'll just try to put it out there real quick. As you know, there was a vacancy that was created when Randy stepped down. So the special election will be held on Saturday, March 13th.
Can you speak into the mic?
Yes, I apologize. So one thing that I also want to just put out there before I forget or lose this train of thought is this term will be from March till July. And so then again, that if the individual that wins wants to run again, that's fine, or whoever may lose can reapply or refile. So if there's not any challenges or anything, the special election, like I say, will be held March 13th. The individual will be sworn in on March 20th. There was initially 4 candidates that were declared: John E. Rogers, Flossie Matthews, Jeremy Olson, and James Gilmore. However, Flossie withdrew. So now there will only be 3 names on the ballot. Those ballots will be ordered quickly. You'll also, prior to that, though, you'll see a second announcement come out with the official candidacy. And then absentee ballots will be getting prepared soon and mail outs as well. We will observe the social distancing. Those practices, masks will be encouraged just like they were at the annual election last July. This election will turn right around after, like I said, if there's no challenges, March 20th. That individual will be installed, and then beginning, I believe the date, I don't have the timeline exactly in front of me, but I believe March 25th then opens the process as the election committee beginning again to prepare for our annual July election. So that's really all I have, and it is very impromptu, so I apologize if there was more that you guys may want.
That's great. Does anybody have any questions for her?
Okay, thank you so much.
We're gonna keep you busy over there.
Yeah, very much so.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Let's go ahead and go to Zoom. Any questions?
Yes, I have Sherry Smiley. Sherry Smiley, you're going to need to unmute.
Thank you. My name is Sherry Smiley. I am an attorney. I'm also a tribal member. I'm not asking these questions as an attorney representing anyone, but I am asking them as a very concerned tribal member. My first question is, I understand that you have fired the general counsel for the tribe. Who is currently serving as general counsel to you and advising you?
His name is Mike Burridge. Judge Mike Burridge with Witten Burridge in Oklahoma City. Our primary go-between over there, his name is Austin Banks.
And how are these people selected?
Well, they are actually kind of the seminal firm here in Oklahoma, handling Native American law itself. A lot of their other work has kind of been called plaintiff's work. But like I said, it was listed as the General Legal Counsel for Choctaw Nation, Chickasaw Nation, and Cherokee Nation. We had them previously retained. They were handling a matter for us on our disruption of business insurance claim. We had a brief discussion with them in terms of their ability to bring on another client this size. They were happy to work with us. We've been actually very, very pleased with this new arrangement.
So the name was Mike Burris, and what was the second name, please? I'm having a hard time with your mask on understanding.
His name is Mike Burridge. He is a former judge in the Eastern District.
Okay, I just asked for the name, and it was B-U-R-R-A-G-E?
B-U-R-R-A-G-E.
Okay, and what was the other name?
Firm is Witten Burridge.
Okay. So I assume, is this a father-son team that we have now?
I'm sorry?
Is this a father-son then? Is it Witten Burridge, you said? Or is that the name of the firm?
Witten and Burridge.
Okay.
There's 2 partners over there. main arming partner, his name is Mike Burridge.
Okay,
Judge.
thank you. I understand.
So, and then the associate attorney that's handling our case, our junior partner, his name is Austin Vance.
And how do you spell that?
Austin, like the capital of Texas.
Right.
And then V is in Vector, A-N-C-E.
Okay. And so then they would be giving you legal advice on things like Good Eagle, I suppose?
Everything.
Okay. And what is the current status of the $39 million that was paid out under the case of Quapaw Nation versus US?
Call her to order, please.
Yeah, let's maintain and Ms. Smiley, I'm attempting to answer your question, so I need you to just hang on a second, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So they are our general legal counsel. So now there is a copious list of complex legal issues that you might imagine that present themselves around here that require specialized help itself. It was our determination that Connor Winters, Steve Ward had efficiently subbed all of this out to different firms and then charged for his review, which in many cases was more expensive than the actual work being performed. Now, our general legal counsel is there at Witten Burridge, as I've described. Now, if we have specialized matters that come up, we do have other attorneys that will be retained. For example, we have a specific firm over in Arkansas in order to handle the Marlon Blackwell lawsuit that's moving forward. We now had to retain a trademark or copyright attorney as a result of that case. We've had to retain securities attorneys as well. And, so there's more, but if you are looking for a general legal counsel, it would be there at Witten Burridge. Austin Vance would be the point of contact.
Can I ask my next question, please?
Please go ahead.
All right. What is the status of the $39 million that was paid out under Quapaw Tribe versus US, case number 12-592? And I believe that that is the $39 million that is currently in the checking account or whatever interest-bearing account you have it in.
That 39 million is being an interest-bearing trust account itself. Now, that comes from an amalgamated settlement between Quapaw versus United States, as well as Good Eagle v. United States. Those claims were combined. So
and who is giving you the legal advice on that, on reopening Good Eagle? Who's doing that?
Well, we actually have a local district judge. You can also call Mike Wong over at the Department of Justice and Rand Point for Department of Interior as well. He can echo the sentiments also.
But those cases have already been settled and closed. If I read Pacer correct today, right? So they have been settled.
They have been settled.
And so who gave you the advice to reopen up Good Eagle if releases had already been signed?
We have not reopened the case.
I believe that you are you not rechecking to see if payments were undermade or overmade?
Well, of course, but that's not reopening the case. We're not relitigating the case. It is settled.
Exactly. So what is your plan then to even up overpayments or underpayments that were made in Good Eagle? And where are you going to get the money to do that? And why would you decide that when those recipients had already signed releases? If my understanding is correct.
Underpayments are moving forward in terms of there is money left in that account. Now,
in what account? In the $39 million account?
Ms. Smiley, please hold your question. I'm not arguing with you. I'm trying to provide you information. So,
and Mr. Barker, would you just please confirm that I had already sent these questions out in an email to all of you, and I've not received one response. So I'm forced to come here today and ask questions during the forum.
I'll confirm that. Ms. Smiley, I would like to confirm that. Now, that being said, your proviso at the beginning of your question, stating that your questions come as a tribal member and not as an attorney.
That
were
is
not
correct.
included in the email. That was, and is that correct? That was not included?
No, it was included in the letter. It said
No, it was not.
specifically, paragraph
No.
1.
You included that you are a concerned tribal member itself. Now, that being said, you may understand how we may have some hesitation as we have received probably dozens of letters from your office. I'm assuming your associate attorney or paralegal, whoever, who has threatened to sue not only this tribe, but also its enterprise.
That's completely inappropriate. And as somebody that has not passed the bar, but has, I assume, applied to take the bar, you know that you should not be discussing open litigation right now. And that's not my questions. My questions have nothing to do with open or pending litigation. My questions
Ms.
have to
Smiley,
do with
Ms.
the other
Smiley.
5,000 tribal members.
Ms. Smiley, I'm going to ask you one more time. So now, as you've also discussed too, you may understand that underneath ADA Rule 4.2, that there is any communication with a client with representation that we are not supposed to communicate with you. And also that flow of information is not supposed to go the opposite direction as well. So you might understand our reticence to answer your email.
Am I supposed to respond? Because I'm sorry, but I do not agree with that. I'm not asking you questions relating to litigation. I'm asking you questions, Guy, on behalf of 5,000 Quapaw tribal members.
Sherry, order, please. We'll answer your question. Ask them one at a time.
All right. So who do you think the $39 million should go to? All tribal members or to Good Eagle members only?
The $39 million that was actually part of Good Eagle, that those claims, the damages allotted to the tribe should be paid to the tribe. Reimbursement for legal fees that were spent should be reimbursed to the tribe itself. Now, about $10 million was spent in legal fees. And then, at least under the recommendation that we have gotten from the court in that settlement, is the damages realized by the state under Quapaw versus United States is only about $2.5 million. That is how much we have opted to keep. Now, that being said, the remaining funds should have been distributed to the individual claimants. There will be underpayment issues. We will be discussing those with those claimants. We will not be providing confidential information for claimants out to the general public. Whether they choose to make that information available to others, that's entirely up to them.
And I'm not asking for individual claimant information, Guy. I'm just asking, so in your calculations, how much of the 39 million will go back to the tribe?
10 million in reimbursement for legal fees. $2.5 million in real damages, for actual damages. That has been stipulated by all parties involved. The Department of Interior, the U.S. Court of Claims, the presiding judge, the chief judge of the United States Court of Claims.
Okay, so if that's the case, then is it your understanding that today you could transfer over 12.5 million to individual tribal members, to 5,200 of us?
That is certainly possible.
Okay. And has any discussion been made about doing that? Because there's tribal members who could really use their share of 12.5 million right now.
I totally agree with you. And it has been discussed. Unfortunately, we're trying to clear the hurdle of trying to get all of those tribal members who were underpaid, paid.
But how would that, how would that affect the 12.5 million? Because if that's tribal money, that doesn't belong then, and even in your own guess, I guess, to the Good Eagle people, that belongs to tribal members, 12.5 million.
Of course.
Regardless if there were overpayments or underpayments made.
Of course.
Okay. So I guess I would like to see you guys come up with a plan on how you could today distribute out 12.5 million to, I think there's approximately 5,400 of us. I don't understand why we would be waiting on that.
Thank you, Ms. Smiley. We'll take it under advisement.
Okay, and then my second question is, what is the status of Saracen? Why have we not heard
In what-
status updates on that?
In what regard?
Are we hitting all of our financial covenants?
We are satisfying every financial covenant. We cleared
Okay.
about almost 5 million in EBITDA for this past month.
So who should that 5 million be going to? Is it going back into Saracen, or is that also tribal money?
Well, no, actually, that is going to have to go into the retained earnings account. Due to the covenants that your sister and our former chairman negotiated, there's a limitation on the amount of profit that can be siphoned off of that property to go to the general fund of the tribe every year.
Okay, and is there an agreement that as part of the covenants that a hotel should be built adjacent to Saracen?
There is, but also, again, the covenants that our predecessors negotiated require the conclusion of the first phase of construction, the return of any funds out of the construction that came in under budget, and then a minimum operational period of 2 quarters, 6 months, before we can even mention the word hotel.
And
I
so
cannot buy steel, I cannot start to raise a hotel tower for at least 6 months after the conclusion of this hotel or this first phase of construction, which has not been closed out.
so when is there estimates on when that will be done?
We are working on the final items of the punch list as we speak.
Okay, and was there an offer to purchase Saracen before it even opened?
There was not.
Has there been an offer to purchase Saracen since it's been opened?
There has not.
No offers at all. That's what you're telling us?
We have received no offers, verbal, written, not even genuine interest, not even somebody coming around to kick the tires.
Okay. Just real quick, can you tell me back on the Quapaw tribe case? Who are you? If I recall, and this question's directed really towards our chairman. So if I recall, Joe, Joseph, when you first, maybe one of your first meetings, you said that RFPs, or that you'd be taking bids to do this legal work to determine if these over or under payments were done in Good Eagle. So how was the attorney chosen? I mean, I guess as someone that's not a landowner, first off, I'd really like to see a true independent, not an opinion from me, not an opinion from an attorney that represents the landowners, but just someone that's outside that says that they agree with what you're saying, that full 39 million does go to only Good Eagle after the 12.5 is taken off. Because I'll tell you, I mean, our past chairman, John Barry, has publicly said that he thinks that full 39 million goes to the whole tribe, to all 5,200 of us. So can we see, as tribal members, a legal opinion? I don't care about names, I don't care about how much people got in Good Eagle, but just an independent legal opinion that is right, that only the Good Eagle people should get the 39 million. You said you would do that, Joseph, and I'm asking why it's not been done.
I think the legal opinion came from the judge, and the courts, detailed that. Even whenever the litigation was pre-trial.
So why would John Barry misunderstand that? Why would he think that 39 million was to go to the tribe? And in fact, all of the people sitting on
John
signed a
Barry's
resolution to that
misunderstanding of
effect.
a lot of things, and I dare not venture down that rabbit hole.
Okay, well, Joseph, again, can we get an independent legal? Why is that so inappropriate to ask for all tribal members to just have an independent legal opinion to put this matter to rest? Not one from landowners' attorneys, not you and Guy telling us that this is what the order said, but just someone that's looking out for all of us. That would be so beneficial to everyone.
Take it under advisement, Sherry.
Thank you. Then my last question is going to be on the health insurance. Did you take RFPs before you switched the health insurance?
Yes, we received bids from several companies.
Okay, and I didn't see those bids that were put out on the website. Is that where is that normally where RFPs are listed?
I don't know if in previous or in past that been detailed as postings. But that's information I'm happy to put out there and share with you.
They do put the RFPs online, because I mean, how would other insurance companies know to request to actually that an RFP had been issued, and so that they could also submit bids? And John Rogers, I see that you're chiming in that bids have never been shared with members. I'm asking if they were received at all.
It's done through a broker, actually. They shop options for us, and they present us with those options, the entire business community.
Mm-hmm. And so if I pulled up an old article from a published article that John Barry had done that said that the insurance company we've switched back to, I mean, I understand, look, their service is great. No issues with that. I completely understand that. I did not like the new health insurance either, but if they're costing us, you know, a couple $1 million every year extra, that's an issue. And so that's why I have deep concerns on if you really did go out and get RFPs for that health insurance, because that was a pretty quick turnaround if you did.
Sharon, we had to do it within that time period. That was in the enrollment period. You know, starting the month of October, in order to get a policy in place by January 1, everybody starts to receive bids from insurance providers. Now,
yeah, I'm aware. Right.
That being said, the cost of this policy does not increase in millions of dollars as a result. And I can promise you that financial analysis was a deep part of this too. You know, our employee benefit plan as well is still sticking with UMR. We're happy with that coverage. We're happy with the pricing. We were not happy with the pricing and service, and honestly, the additional costs that came along with our overhead. It had almost completely monopolized the finance department over here. So I can assure you that it is not increased in pricing by millions of dollars. Actually, I'm not even sure that it increased at all. Are we saving any money on this? Okay, there you go. So we're actually paying this at a discount to our previous agreement with UMR.
Okay, as long as it was done fairly and that RFPs were put out, then I have no other complaints about that. So thank you for your answers. I think that those are my concerns at this point. I will say I do have a concern on Bear. I guess I'll bring that up now. You've stated that you're working with Congress to try and come up with the appropriation, and I know this is going to be a tough year, probably to get extra money on anything, just because of COVID. But I guess I'd like your opinion right now, and I think everyone deserves it. When that Bear $138 million or 139 million, whatever it is, I think that's what it is, ends up being coming to the tribe, how's that going to be distributed? Are you going to distribute it to all tribal members, or do you, is it your opinion that that money is also only to go to the Good Eagle plaintiffs? So the rest of the 5,000 of us would just lose out. What's your opinion?
Ms. Smiley, our position is actually that it agrees with the settlement itself. You know, we have no intention of distributing those funds. I don't want to touch a single dollar. The Department of Interior has all of our enrollment records, land records. They have the ability to make those distributions individually, and that is our posture. We do not want to touch it. I do not want to be in this position again. I don't think it is the role of this government to be taking funds, particularly whenever our tribal members cannot sue for equitable relief because we are a non-acre tribe.
So
for that reason, we have advocated for those funds to be distributed by the Treasury to the Department of Interior so that they can distribute those funds to the individual claimants, which would be every single tribal member.
So why would you do that? Why, I mean, why can't we trust our own governance? Why do we have to trust the government to do that? If it's truly going to go to every single tribal member, we know who the enrolled members are. Why would we even, that makes zero sense to me on why we can't trust ourselves to distribute that much money to each individual tribal member. That's what makes me question, if you're really sincere about giving it to tribal members, do it yourselves. If you're really going to look at what you just mentioned, Guy, which is land ownership, and you want the Department of Interior to make that determination, that is completely different than saying you're going to give it to every tribal member. So why would we not take that money ourselves and distribute it to the
every
people?
tribal member is named as a claimant in the case itself.
So then why couldn't we just distribute the money to tribal members? You've done it. We've done it with COVID funds recently. Why can't we just write a check to every tribal member? Why even involve the Department of Interior?
Because then we start to get into another debate of matters of fairness, just like we're in right now. A mess.
There's no debate though if it's divided. There's no debate if it's divided
we should not
equally.
be in this situation.
But there's no debate if it's divided equally between all tribal members. Where would the debate be on that?
I think the debate is where any of that is actually attached to damages and claims outlined within the claims of the case itself. Now that
So
being
then
said,
we're getting back to, individual landowners, and that's troublesome to me. That money should go to tribal members, and it should be divided up by the tribe, not by the government. And it should go to individual members equally to tribal members equally.
Ms. Marilyn,
Do you agree with that?
Ms. Smiley, I respectfully disagree.
That's all I needed to hear. You disagree that goes to tribal members equally. You disagree?
No, we disagree that the tribal government should administer. Ms. Smiley, please refrain from the rhetoric.
Rhetoric.
Yes, your rhetoric.
All right. Who does the money go to in Bear?
It goes to all the tribal members. It's just a matter of
Equally.
who is going to distribute it. And it isn't going to be us.
And does it go to all the tribal members equally?
I can't make that determination. That is left up to the court and the Department of Interior. We've said
And so
this
you're
before.
telling me that your job as a board is to protect our assets as a whole tribe, all 5,200 of us. That's who you are supposed to protect, not just individual landowners. So if you're telling me that you're giving up the fight, that all 5,200 of us are entitled to the Bear money, I hope all Quapaw members are listening to that. I don't have anything further for you guys.
I guess in closing on that, we're definitely not in here propping landowners up. I think that this is really just an issue of who is going to be doing this distribution. Theories have been debated over time, and as I've said, there is a distinct problem with having our tribe and our people distribute those funds. It's the exact issue that we're in right now in regards to Good Eagle. There is absolutely no recourse for tribal citizens to hold our own tribal government responsible if that distribution is done incorrectly, unfairly. You would literally have to have somebody run for office, displace the current leadership, and then go back and try to fix it, which is the exact situation we're in right now. I don't want to repeat it.
Thank you. There's a date that you had to be an enrolled member by September before you were eligible for that.
2015.
Cal, do we have anybody else looking for?
We not have any individuals next for open forum. We do have a few questions for some people who joined later, wanting the update on the fair settlement. We've been talking about several times, but maybe this would be a good opportunity just to do some clarification and updating.
So, I can imagine that some of you have seen there's been some interesting things going on in Congress lately. With, I think, the new incumbent administration, as well as new members of Congress coming into office, has kind of slowed the legislative process down. However, that being said, this bill for appropriation requires authorization language, which would have to be another small piece of legislation that have to be approved. Like I said earlier, we have a have the full-throated support of the congressional delegation. We ran into a little bit of a hiccup that here actually a couple of months ago in terms of their need for the authorization. Our understanding is that former chairman in the lobbyist, Mr. Mock, had discussions with a couple of members and offered to draft that authorization language about 9 to 10 months ago. They did not deliver. And so now we are in a position of trying to get that authorization language pushed forward so that we can make the CR. We will be on it. Now, that being said, as we discussed with the nomination of Congresswoman Deb Haaland, potentially being able to sit as Secretary of the Department of Interior, there is a distinct possibility that they will get the cooperation of the White House to sign off on these funds being allocated through the settlement fund. This was definitely not something that could have happened during the Trump administration. I think this is a settlement amount that he would have never authorized or signed off on and would have required it to go through the legislative process and appropriations. We have both options now at our disposal. We have reached out to Ms. Haaland and her people, as well as other members of Congress and the Senate, to voice their support of trying to push us through the settlement funding to be able to get the help of the new presidential administration, President-elect Joe Biden, to help us or aid us in this process. We've received a lot of really positive feedback from them. And so there is some possibility there that we could expedite this. Even plan on trying to have this become a discussion within for confirmation hearings at Senate, whether it be on or off the record. So, but it is moving along. As always, we're subject to the whims of Congress. But honestly, we've got a lot of potential possible ways for this to be kind of funded earlier. So we will keep everybody updated and let everybody know how that process is moving along. Any other questions?
There are no other questions in Zoom.
Eric, did we need to have a conversation? Yeah. We're going to go ahead and move into closed session now. Reconvene coming out of closed session. Mr. Secretary Treasurer.
This committee met in closed session to discuss a couple matters with privacy of Mr. Eric Boone. Had a couple small matters to resolve with the tribal member health benefit, and then just some housekeeping in terms of organization of certain accounts, and then an update on some of the changes to the tribal credit card policy.
All right. And with that, I'll go ahead and give the benediction. Control tate wukonda ejinke, wibrate hampade, ordonti kansa wakpani, O-Guah-Pah shijani hampade, Uda hampade. Ganage in tate, dahwali, O-Guah-Pah kisto, Ganage in tate wukonda ejinke, dahwali, Ajinkaji, keeps you kumbra. I would home the concept. Johnny O-gah-pah nikashi. Gonna gay, would sit on me hunger day. Monshe wan O-gah-pah nikashi. Johnny. Father God, thank you for this day. Thank you that we're able to carry on the business of our people. And I ask that you be with ones in mourning that are in grief right now. And I ask that you look down upon us and have mercy on us. And it's all these things I ask in your Son, Jesus Christ's name, I pray. Amen. Good again.
Mr. Chairman, I move to adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Second.
And we have a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, we are adjourned.